Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the garage. You know, I've got a real soft spot for American muscle, and today we're taking a trip down memory lane with a brand that for many years was synonymous with power and performance, Pontiac. Sadly, Pontiac, like a few other great marques, got swept up in some tough times and hasn't been around for over a decade. But that doesn't mean we've forgotten about them. There's a real hunger out there, a rumble in the streets, if you will, for some of those classic Pontiac models to make a comeback. Now, you can't talk about Pontiac without mentioning the Firebird. This car was an icon, pure and simple. It was sleek, it was powerful, and it had an attitude that just screamed, "Get in and drive." The Firebird went through a whole bunch of iterations over the years, from the first generation in '67 all the way to the last one in 2002. And each generation had its own unique flavor. But they all shared that same DNA, that same Pontiac spirit. Of course, you can't talk about the Firebird without mentioning the Trans Am. This was the Firebird all dressed up in its finest, with that screaming chicken on the hood and enough horsepower to make your hair stand on end. I mean, who could forget that black and gold Trans Am from Smokey and the Bandit? That car was practically a character in the movie. The Firebird was more than just a car. It was a statement. It was a symbol of freedom, of power, of American ingenuity. And it's a car that I, for one, would love to see make a comeback. Now, let's talk about another Pontiac legend, the GTO. This was the car that started it all, the car that kicked off the muscle car craze back in the '60s. The GTO was raw power in its purest form. It was a car that was built for one thing and one thing only, to go fast. And boy, did it go fast. Under the hood, you had a big block V8 engine that churned out an unbelievable amount of horsepower. And when you put your foot down, it took off like a rocket. The GTO was a car that demanded respect. It was a car that you didn't mess with. And it was a car that left an indelible mark on automotive history. Now, I know what you're thinking. They don't make them like they used to. And you know what? You're right. But that doesn't mean that we can't dream, does it? A modern interpretation of the GTO with all the latest technology and engineering would be something truly special. Now, the Fiero. This was Pontiac's attempt at building an affordable, mid-engined sports car. And you know what? They almost pulled it off. The Fiero had a lot of potential. It was lightweight, it handled well, and it had that exotic mid-engine layout that got everyone's attention. But it also had its fair share of problems. Early models were plagued with engine fires, which kind of put a damper on things. But even with its flaws, the Fiero was a unique and interesting car. It was a car that was ahead of its time. And it's a car that, with a little bit of love and attention, could have been truly great. Imagine a modern-day Fiero with a reliable engine, a refined suspension, and all the latest technology. It would be a blast to drive. Now, let's fast forward a few years and talk about the G8. This was Pontiac's last hurrah, and boy, did they go out with a bang. The G8 was a modern muscle car that had it all: aggressive styling, a powerful V8 engine, and handling that would put a smile on your face. It was the spiritual successor to the GTO, and it more than lived up to its heritage. The G8 was a car that could do it all. It was comfortable enough to drive every day, but it was also more than capable of holding its own on a racetrack. It was a shame that Pontiac had to go and discontinue the G8 just when they were hitting their stride. But hey, that's the car business for you, right? And finally, we come to the Pontiac Aztek. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Aztek? Seriously? Hear me out on this one. The Aztek was one of those cars that was universally panned when it first came out. People hated the styling. They hated the plastic body cladding. They hated everything about it. But over time, something strange happened. The Aztek started to develop a cult following. People began to appreciate its quirky charm, its practicality, and its go-anywhere attitude. And let's be honest, the Aztek was way ahead of its time. It was a crossover SUV before crossover SUVs were even a thing. So yeah, the Aztek might not have been the prettiest car on the road, but it was unique, it was practical, and it had personality. And in today's world, that counts for something. Well, there you have it, folks. 5 classic Pontiac cars that we would love to see make a comeback. What do you think? Which one of these Pontiacs would you love to see back on the road? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more great content, and share this video with your friends. We'll see you next time.